Paris, July 14th, 1789. The Bastille stands over the city, stone, iron, and silence. Below it, the crowd keeps moving, pressing forward shoulder to shoulder. Hands tighten around pikes. Boots slide over mud and broken wood. A cannon wheel grinds into place. Above the gate, a soldier leans over the wall, squinting through smoke and sunlight. His musket lowers. His finger curls. Men below shout for powder, for arms, for the fortress to open. Someone swings a hammer against the chains. Once. Twice. Again. The soldier inhales. The trigger gives. A shot cracks. Smoke bursts outward. A man falls. Then Paris lunges at the gate. And the day turns savage. But fortresses do not fall in a day. For years, France has been tightening like a rope. Bakers rise before dawn to find flour gone. Mothers stand in bread lines, shifting children from one aching arm to the other. Peasants bend over fields that no longer feed them. Tax collectors knock. Carts rattle through hungry streets. In Versailles, silk rustles, doors open, servants bow, and the court keeps moving as if nothing can break. But everything is breaking. Debt climbs. Prices rise. Anger spreads from village roads to Paris workshops to the halls of power. By the summer of 1789, the whole kingdom is already leaning forward into the abyss. What you're about to see is reconstructed from paintings, sketches, letters, and historical records. The faces, the streets, the fire, the fury, all rebuilt with AI to bring the French Revolution back to life. 15 years before Paris came for the Bastille, France still looked unshakable. At the center of it all stood Versailles, gold, mirrors, silk, ceremony, and a monarchy that seemed older than memory itself. In 1774, after the death of Louis XV, his grandson, Louis XVI, became king at just 19 years old. His portrait would soon hang in homes, offices, and official halls across the kingdom. A young Bourbon ruler in lace, velvet, and powder, crowned with the weight of a system he did not create. Around him, nobles bowed, servants opened doors, and the court moved with perfect ritual, as if power would last forever. From Versailles, France still looked eternal, but beneath the polished floors and shining chandeliers, the kingdom was already beginning to crack far beyond its walls. France was one kingdom, but it did not live as one people. In a French village, you could see the order at a glance, the church tower rising above the square, the noble estate beyond the fields, and the people below working the land that fed them all. First came the clergy, guardians of the church, rich in land and privilege. Then the nobility, born to titles, offices, and exemption. And beneath them, the third estate, peasants, labourers, merchants, craftsmen, and lawyers, the vast majority of France. They worked the fields, filled the markets, paid the taxes, and carried the kingdom on their backs. One country in name. 3 estates in law. And one of them bore the weight. By 1788, an ordinary French family did not pay in one direction. It paid in every direction. To the crown, in taxes. To the church, in tithes. To the Lord, in dues, fees, and old obligations that still clung to the land. A peasant could harvest grain he did not fully keep, work roads he did not choose to build, and hand over money he could barely spare. A townsman paid rent, guild fees, market charges, and whatever else the system could still demand. The clergy held privilege. The nobility kept exemptions. But the bill for France kept falling downward. One kingdom above, 1,000 hands below, and the people carrying the most were the people allowed the least. For ordinary people, the crisis did not begin as politics. It began at the table. Bread grew dearer. Wages did not keep pace. Rent still came due. Firewood still had to be bought. A mother stood in line before sunrise, child in her arms, waiting to see how far a loaf would stretch. A laborer counted coins in his palm, then closed his hand and walked away with nothing. In kitchens, flour ran low. In workshops, men worked tired and ate badly. In crowded rooms, families measured every day meal by meal, candle by candle, coin by coin. Long before France rose in revolt, pressure was already living in the body, in hunger, in cold, in debt, and in the fear of tomorrow. Long before crowds stormed gates, ideas had already begun to press against the throne. In books, salons, and printed pages, Montesquieu argued that power should never sit unchecked in one pair of hands. Voltaire mocked superstition, attacked intolerance, and made inherited authority look less sacred, less untouchable, less wise. Rousseau went even further. Sovereignty, he insisted, did not belong naturally to kings, but to the people themselves. These were not yet revolutionaries in the street. They were writers, thinkers, and critics, turning language into a weapon. Their words moved through drawing rooms, studies, cafes, and print shops, where educated French men and women began to judge the old order instead of merely obeying it. Reason, rights, representation, and liberty entered public life. And once subjects begin imagining a different political world, the old one starts to lose its spell forever. In 1774, Louis XVI inherited more than a crown. He inherited a machine already straining under debt, privilege, and distrust. The monarchy looked magnificent at Versailles.
Les dettes ne cessent d'augmenter. C'est intenable.
But its finances were weak, its taxes unequal, and its authority increasingly brittle.
Doivent cesser.
Vous ne comprenez rien à l'équilibre des pouvoirs, c'est la tradition.
Attendez, les chiffres ici confirment ces dires.
Beside him stood Marie Antoinette, young and soon entangled in a court the public would learn to resent. Around him moved ministers searching for solutions. Turgot saw that France could not go on like this and pushed for reform, restraint, and a freer economy, but resistance closed around him. Necker tried to steady confidence, manage the debt, and keep the state functioning. Yet numbers and appearances could not solve the rot. Louis was not a conquering monarch stepping into strength. He was a hesitant king entering an old system full of privilege, blocked reform, and problems already outgrowing his power. In an old French harbour, the kingdom still looks strong. Warships sit in the water, cannon wait on the quay, crates are lifted, ropes pulled tight, sails prepared for the Atlantic. Officers move through the port while dock workers load powder, muskets, and supplies for a war an ocean away. France does not enter the American struggle for romance. It enters to wound Britain, regain influence, and avenge old defeats. But every ship that leaves the harbour carries away money the monarchy does not truly have. Victory will bring prestige, but not relief. The ports stay busy, the fleets keep sailing, and the bill keeps growing. What looks like power from the shore is already becoming pressure at home. Long before Paris turns on Versailles, the cost of helping break Britain is helping break France. The next scene should begin not with battle, but with paper, candlelight, and men trying to rescue a kingdom that no longer obeys repair. Turgot sees the danger early. He pushes economy, restraint, and a freer system, hoping to cut through old habits before they become disaster. Necker follows, trying to hold confidence together with loans, administration, and the appearance of stability. Then comes Calonne, who sees the truth most clearly. The state cannot survive unless privilege helps pay for the state itself.
Our hour of decision is upon us. This letter from our allies demands our immediate action. We cannot falter now. Our legacy depends on a vote to unite our forces.
But every remedy runs into the same wall. Court interests, exemptions, custom, and fear close ranks against change. Each minister arrives with a different plan. Each leaves with the same lesson. France is not failing because no one can see the problem. France is failing because the system punishes anyone who tries to fix it. Now the crisis steps into a grand room. In 1787, Louis XVI summons the Assembly of Notables, not commoners from the street, but princes, prelates, magistrates, and great men of the realm. Exactly the sort of people the monarchy hopes will legitimize reform. Calonne lays out the truth. The treasury is strained. Borrowing cannot go on forever, and privilege can no longer remain untouched. His answer is dangerous because it is logical: broaden taxation, pull revenue into a fairer structure, and make the upper orders contribute. But the men assembled to save the kingdom are also men trained to protect rank, exemption, and custom. They question, delay, resist, and recoil. The monarchy asks the privileged to help carry the load. The privileged answer by defending the very imbalance that helped create it. What should have remained a problem of money now enters the courts and becomes a struggle over power. In the parliament chambers, robed magistrates take their seats, clerks unroll edicts, seals are broken, and royal orders are read into the room. Then the movement begins. Heads turn. Hands lift. A judge rises. Another slams a paper onto the table. Reform is no longer treated like administration. It is challenged like an abuse. The parliaments present themselves as guardians of the kingdom, not servants of the ministers. Pens scratch, objections multiply, registrations stall, and the king's will stops at the bench. Outside, messengers carry news back through Paris and Versailles. Each blocked decree makes the crown look weaker. Each delay makes the crisis more public. What began as financial repair is now a visible fight over who truly has the right to rule. In 1788, hunger stopped being a fear and became a daily condition. Storms tore through the harvest. Grain failed in the fields, and what survived did not go far enough. In villages, peasants bent over damaged crops and filled baskets too lightly. In towns, bakers opened their shops before sunrise to find flour short and crowds already waiting. Women stood in bread lines with shawls pulled tight, children clinging at their sides, eyes fixed on the oven door. Men counted coins in cold hands, then closed their fists and stepped back with nothing. Carts rattled through muddy streets carrying grain too little and too late. Kitchens thinned out. Fires burned low. Bread grew dearer, tempers shorter, and patience weaker. Long before revolt found its voice, the body of France was already being pushed toward desperation. Now the kingdom is forced to do something it has not done in generations.
Nous exigeons le vote par tête, pas par ordre.
Justice, égalité.
For the first time since 1614, the Estates General is called. Notices are posted. Church bells ring. Messengers ride out with royal orders. Across France, roads begin to fill. Noblemen travel in carriages, priests move through parish towns, lawyers and local men of standing gather papers and set out for assemblies. In village halls and city chambers, benches scrape, names are read, elections are held, and deputies are chosen. All three orders are summoned: clergy, nobility, and the Third Estate. What begins as a royal attempt to manage a crisis starts to look like something much larger. France is not just being taxed or ruled now, France is being asked to speak. And once a kingdom starts gathering its voices, it becomes harder to silence what they may say. Then France begins to write. In parish rooms, town halls, guild chambers, and candlelit meeting spaces, people gather over paper to draft their cahiers de doléances, lists of grievances, demands, and hopes carried upward toward power. Quills scratch. Ink blots. Voices interrupt and press in. A peasant asks for relief from dues. A townsman demands fairer taxes. A merchant wants freer trade. A village complains of seigneurial burdens. Others ask for justice that is less costly, offices that are less closed, laws that are less unequal. Priests, nobles, and commoners all write, but they do not write the same France. What matters is that they are writing at all. The kingdom is no longer only suffering, it is describing its suffering, ordering it into demands, and beginning to imagine that change might finally be possible. The quarrel begins with procedure, but everyone in the room understands that procedure is power.
Voterons-nous par ordre ou par tête? Les privilèges ne peuvent plus suffire.
At Versailles, deputies take their seats, papers are opened, names are called, and almost immediately the assembly locks on a single question. Will France vote by order, as it always has, or by head, where numbers would finally matter? The clergy and nobility can still outvote the Third Estate if the old rule holds. The Third knows it. So the debates drag, tempers tighten, and the legal issue becomes a political weapon. Men lean over tables, confer in knots, return to their benches, and refuse to yield. Nothing dramatic seems to happen at first, only delay, argument, and waiting, but that is exactly the danger. A kingdom built on hierarchy suddenly discovers that even counting votes can threaten the whole order. Then, the deadlock breaks. On June 17th, 1789, after weeks of dispute, the deputies of the Third Estate stop waiting for permission and declare themselves the National Assembly. It is not a gesture of wounded pride. It is a seizure of legitimacy. They are saying that they do not merely represent one order of the kingdom, they represent the nation itself. In the chamber, this is a moment of movement as much as language. Deputies rise, papers are read, votes are taken, and the meaning of the room changes while everyone is still standing in it. Some clergy begin to drift toward them, others watch in alarm. The old balance is not smashed with a sword or torn apart by hands. It is shifted by a declaration. 3 days later, the conflict turns physical. On June 20th, 1789, deputies of the new National Assembly arrive and find their meeting hall closed, officially for preparations connected to a royal session. Whether they believe the explanation or not, they read the meaning at once, they are being shut out. So they move together through Versailles and crowd into an indoor tennis court. There, with the room packed and the heat rising, they lift their hands and swear that they will not separate until France has a constitution.
Jurons de ne jamais nous séparer, jusqu'à ce que la Constitution soit établie.
John Sylvain Bailey presides. The oath transforms frustration into commitment. No one needs to break down a door. The stronger image is this one. Locked out, they find another room and turn exclusion into defiance. After that, there is no easy way back to obedient procedure. By July 1789, Paris watches the roads and sees the kingdom moving against it. Royal troops keep arriving outside the city. Swiss and German regiments, cavalry, cannon, supply wagons, boots striking dust, drums beating, horses snorting, muskets stacked and loaded. In gardens, taverns, and street corners, men stop talking when they hear hoofbeats and turn toward the gates. Then the rumor hardens into fear. The crown is surrounding Paris, the assembly will be broken, and the city will be disarmed. On July 11, Necker is dismissed, and the shock runs through the streets like powder taking flame. Heads lift, voices rise, crowds thicken, bells ring, barriers go up, men run for weapons. Paris does not wait quietly. It begins moving first, bracing for the strike it believes is coming.
Bastille!
3 days later, fear becomes assault. At the Bastille, men surge forward through heat, smoke, and shouting, dragging cannon through mud, hauling ropes, lifting axes, hammers, pikes, and muskets. Hands slam against timber, iron chains rattle, boots skid on broken wood. Someone kicks the gate. Another swings a hammer into the lock. Muskets fire from the walls. White smoke bursts outward. Men fall. Others rush over the space they leave behind. Below the towers, barrels are shoved into place, beams splinter, ladders lurch forward, and fire catches in the chaos. The defenders fire down, the crowd fires back. The whole fortress seems to shake with smoke, sparks, and impact. Then the defenses give way. The drawbridge drops, the gates are forced, and Paris pours inside. Royal power is no longer distant. It is broken by hands, fire, iron, and running feet. In the summer of 1789, the countryside does not explode all at once, it shudders first. Riders arrive with half-heard stories. Bells ring. Men leave fields and gather in lanes with sickles, staves, and old muskets. Women drag children inside, then step back out to watch the road. The rumor is always the same shape. Brigands are coming, grain will be taken, the lords are behind it, Paris has broken into insurrection, and now the village must fend for itself. Panic turns into motion. Doors slam, courtyards fill. Peasants rush toward manor houses, force open chests, seize papers, and throw feudal records into the fire. This is the great fear, not one battle, but a chain of alarms moving across rural France, village by village, until fear itself becomes action. The knight privilege began to die, August 4th, 1789. Then comes one of the strangest nights of the revolution. In the assembly, fear from the countryside arrives in political form, and the deputies try to stop France from tearing itself apart by sacrificing the old order before it is torn from them. One noble rises, another follows. Privileges are offered up in speeches, then feudal dues, seigneurial rights, and the tithe are struck at in a rush of renunciations. The scene matters because it moves like a cascade. Men stand, call out, yield, and are answered by more concessions from across the chamber. What the peasants had attacked in the provinces, the assembly now begins to dismantle in law. By dawn, the feudal regime has been targeted at its core, and privilege no longer feels permanent. The rights of man, revolution gives itself a language. After panic and concession comes
Nous demandons
definition.
justice et représentation. Habillés, à soit décidé.
In August 1789, the National Assembly does more than react. It writes down the principles of the new France. Deputies argue article by article. draft against draft, turning revolt into doctrine. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen announces that men are born free and equal in rights, that sovereignty resides in the nation, that liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression are fundamental,
Tous en raison de leurs facultés.
and that taxation must be shared according to ability. In the hall, this is paper, ink, and procedure. Outside, it becomes a new political language. People can now measure power against declared principles. The revolution is no longer only destruction. It has begun to tell France what justice is supposed to look like. On October 5th, 1789, hunger stops waiting politely. Before dawn, market women in Paris gather in the rain, shouting for bread, seizing drums, pikes and muskets, and pushing toward Versailles in a long, angry column. They do not move like a court petition, they move like a storm. Mud splashes, carts rattle, cannon roll behind them, and every mile adds more bodies, more noise, more fury. At Versailles, they press through gates, flood the courtyards, demand bread, and force the king to answer. By morning, after panic, gunfire, and blood in the palace, the royal family is taken from Versailles. The escape begins in secrecy and ends in recognition. A heavy carriage rolls out into the night, wheels grinding over the road while attendants, children, and royal figures sit cramped inside, dressed for concealment and delay. At each stop, time leaks away. Horses are changed too slowly. Faces are studied too closely. In village after village, people stare harder. Then, at Varennes, the movement stops. Lantern light catches the king's face. Orders are shouted. Local officials block the road, National Guards arrive. Doors open, people crowd close, and the royal family is turned back toward Paris under escort. What should have been a silent flight becomes a public humiliation on the road itself. By the time the carriage returns, the monarchy has not only failed to escape, it has shown France that the king was ready to abandon the revolution rather than live within it. Then the revolution steps out of the chamber and onto the frontier. In 1792, France declares war, and almost immediately the pressure multiplies. Marching columns, hurried musters, uniforms thrown together, cannon dragged over rough ground, rumors outrunning armies. Early defeats deepen panic. Officers are distrusted, soldiers desert, and crowds in Paris begin to see conspiracy everywhere. Then comes the Brunswick Manifesto, and the threat of foreign invasion fuses with fear of treason at home. Drums beat in the streets, volunteers gather, pikes rise, and the line between battlefield and politics begins to vanish. War does not merely end debate, it radicalizes it. Under external threat, every hesitation looks suspect. Every defeat looks like betrayal, and the revolution starts demanding a different kind of loyalty, harder, harsher, and far more dangerous than before. On August 10, the crisis turns into insurrection. Armed Parisians and FDROs surge toward the Tuileries, drums rolling, cannon advancing, muskets lifted, while the palace braces behind its gates. The Swiss guards fire, smoke fills the courtyards, bodies fall on the paving stones, the crowd keeps coming. Inside, the king and royal family flee across the garden to seek refuge with the Legislative Assembly, and the monarchy collapses in the very act of trying to preserve itself. What follows is no longer reform of the crown, but its suspension, then its abolition. Months later, the struggle narrows to one man. At his trial, Louis is judged not as a king above the nation, but as a citizen accused of treason. On the scaffold, the blade falls, and with it falls the old fiction that the revolution can still live beside monarchy.